Welcome back to ARC Tutorials. This is expressjs and Mongoose CRUD tutorial. This tutorial is good for absolute beginners as well as for experienced folks. I'll be covering right from scratch, right from setup to advanced use cases of all the CRUD functionality. This is part 1 of the series. As we progress in the series, we will learn how to create custom routes, how to create Mongoose schema. We'll implement the CRUD functionality, which is create, read, update, delete. And finally, I'm going to do a full demo of the application that we build and provide you the source code. Without wasting any time, let's get started first with the overview. I'll start with expressjs overview. So what is expressjs? Expressjs is a fast, minimalistic web application framework for Node.js. Using expressjs, we can build robust RESTful APIs and on which we have more flexibility and control because expressjs is an unopinionated framework. We are free to choose the kind of application structure we want to build upon. Expressjs heavily uses middleware concept, which means functions can be used to handle requests and responses. expressjs has support for all the HTTP methods like get, post, put, delete. expressjs not only have a powerful routing mechanism, but it also has templating engines like EJS, Pug, Handlebars, etc. It's suitable for both small as well as large-scale complex enterprise applications. Let's talk about MongoDB. When you're working with Mongoose library, what it essentially means is that you're saving your data in MongoDB. So it's important to know what is MongoDB. MongoDB is a popular open source NoSQL database. It's designed to handle large unstructured data. It's unstructured because unlike traditional relational database systems, the data is not stored in tables or columns, rows and columns. Instead, it is stored in a JSON-like format. In MongoDB, we call it BSON, which stands for binary JSON. MongoDB is schemaless, which means any document that we create can have any structure and any number of fields. MongoDB has rich query capabilities, including support for CRUD operations, aggregations, and advanced search. MongoDB is flexible and has a powerful query language called MQL, which is MongoDB query language, which allows for complex data retrieval and manipulation. Today in this particular series, we will also learn and touch base about little bit about MongoDB using MongoDB Compass application. Now let's learn about Mongoose. What is Mongoose? Mongoose is an object document mapping library for MongoDB, which means we create this schema for and do modeling of our data based on our application requirement. Using Mongoose, we can define custom schemas and add validations. That way it becomes much powerful in terms of how we save the data to Mongo. It offers powerful features like middleware, virtuals, population aggregation for advanced data manipulation, and query capabilities. Mongoose extremely works easily and seamlessly with expressjs and other Node.js based applications as a middleware, which helps us in schema. We'll learn everything about it in this series. Alright, now that we know about expressjs, we know about MongoDB, we know about Mongoose library, let's talk quickly about CRUD and then we start the setup. CRUD stands for create, read, update, and delete. Create means inserting records or documents into database. Read means retrieving the data from the database. Update stands for updating existing data in the database. Delete, as the name says, it's used for deleting the records. We'll perform these using expressjs and build RESTful APIs to do the CRUD operations. That being said, let's get started with the setup. The first thing you will need is to make sure that you have the MongoDB installed on your system. I am using MongoDB Compass application. You can download it for free from MongoDB website. This step is extremely essential even before you learn the CRUD operations. So make sure that you have the MongoDB installed and you have the MongoDB Compass application downloaded. That way it's easy to get started. Alright, so that being said, let's do the setup on the Express side. I'm going to create a brand new application, and in the folder I'm going to create a new folder, expressjs mongoose APIs. Okay, that's my project name. Now open, I'm going to open the terminal and I'm going to go into that folder. Okay, mongoose APIs, and the first thing we'll do is npm init. It will initialize our package in the repo. Enter the details that you want. Now that we have initialized, we will see the package.json. Now I'm going to go ahead with the installation. So first we will install Express. Next we are going to install Mongoose. And then we will also need body parser. So let's install that also. pm install body parser. These are the three things we will require to work with MongoDB and Mongoose library. Okay, so these are the three things we need: Express, Mongoose library, and body parser. So far so good. I hope you are coming here till here you are successfully achieved. Then we are going to import expressjs and say require express. We are going to import the Mongoose library. And we are going to import the body parser. Okay, these are the three things that you need to import. Now that you have imported them, we'll going to say we'll create a new instance of Express. So we are going to say app equal to Express. So we are telling that this is an app which is working on Express. Okay, so for now what we'll do is app dot use body parser dot json. This is required because we will have to get the data from the request body. That's why we need this. Along with this, we'll also have to write app.use body parser dot URL encoded, and we are going to set it to true. So here we'll write extended is true. Okay, that's all you need for body parser. Now we can also let's mention the port number, and we are going to create the instance so that app would listen to which the port number, and then followed by a callback. And here we are going to say application started or something like that. Alright, that's all you need to just write the code. Okay, now let's quickly do a node index.js. That's how you run the Express application. You will just do index, and so now it says server started successfully at port number 3000. Alright, so that's all we will do in today's episode. We went over the overview of all the libraries and frameworks required, that is expressjs, mongoose library. We touch based upon mongodb, and we installed the required framework and dependencies. Once we have this, we have created a simple basic file which has an app that we started on Express. We included the body parser. That's all for today. In the next episode, we are going to do custom routing as well as the schema creation. Okay, and that's the where we'll actually define our application schema, and we will learn to write some validations of it. Okay, I hope you're following. I hope you're enjoying. I hope you're learning from this series. If you have any questions, any feedback, even if you love this tutorial, please do let me know in the comment section. Hit that like button and subscribe button. Thank you so much for joining. See you in the next episode. Welcome back to Arc Tutorials. This is expressjs and Mongoose CRUD tutorial series. In the first part, we went over the overview of the frameworks and the libraries. We also did the initial setup required for our project. In today's episode, we are going to go deep and we are going to learn about how to create Mongoose schema, how to create the models, what are the different options that you can set up for the field validations, and much more. Today's episode is extremely important to understand. This way you will master how to create Mongoose schema. Without wasting any time, let's jump right into it. Alright, so like I said, if you haven't checked out the first part, I'll request you to kindly do so because that's where we did the initial project setup, which we will continue building in today's episode. So what are we going to do in today's episode? We are going to connect from Mongoose to MongoDB, and then we will create Mongoose schema for our application, and we'll set up the routes for our model. That's what we are going to achieve today. Let's get started. Alright, so this is what we were up to in the first episode. We installed Express, we installed Mongoose, we installed body parser. Then we created an instance of Express and we started our server. So if you want to run the server, you will type node and index.js. So it says server started successfully. That's so far so good. Now let's start with today's work, which is to create the connection from Mongoose to connection from Mongoose to MongoDB. So I'm going to create a method and call it connect to DB, and let's make it a async and call back. Alright, so I'm creating this method and here it's an async method, so we'll do try catch error, and for now just log the error. Alright, so now in the try, what we will do, we will write await and do mongoose dot connect. This method takes a parameter of this where the MongoDB is installed. So you're going to say MongoDB colon localhost. Since I'm running in my local, I'm giving localhost, but if you're connecting to MongoDB Atlas, you would give the URL and the port that comes with the Atlas. The port is 27017 by default, and um, every MongoDB database installation comes with a built-in by default database called my database. Okay, so we are going to use that for our learning, and you can create your own also, but for now we'll just keep it simple. And here we are going to write use new URL parser and make it true, and we will also say use unified topology as true. These are the two options that we will pass to the MongoDB database. Alright, so that's all we need in terms of our connection to MongoDB. Let's format it. Alright, so now we have our method. We can also do one thing. If there is an error, we will exit the process, and if it is unable to connect to database, we will exit the program. Alright, and last we can also do is we can add a console here and say connected to MongoDB. Okay, that's all we need for this method to connect to MongoDB. Now let's call this method just like this. Perfect. So now our connection to MongoDB is set up via Mongoose. First task is completed, that is to connect to MongoDB via Mongoose library. The next thing what we are going to do is create a model. Okay, model is nothing but in our application, let's say we are building a contact management system, so we will need contacts, right? So that becomes a collection, that becomes a data, right? Data type. So we are going to create that model now and create a folder by the name models. Now you'll need a name. So give the name of the model that you want to build upon, and first thing we will do is import mongoose require mongoose. Okay, all right. So now that we have imported, we can use create that schema basically, and we'll say new mongoose dot schema. Okay, so schema is nothing but the structure of the document that we want to have. Now inside this we will define what all fields we need in this particular collection. Okay, so we are going to say, let's say first name, and we are going to add data in it. And there are a lot of options that Mongoose provides. The first is what type it is. So you are going to tell that it's a type of string. That means the data that is coming in is a string. We can mention required field or not. That means whether this data should be is required or not. So see, half of the validation is done as part of Mongoose. You don't have to really write code for it. We can also mention the minimum length. Sorry. And you can also mention max length. And then we can also give option like, do we want to trim it? Yes, we want to trim the data. That means remove any white spaces that are there. You can also add some default value if you want. In some cases where you have data like say active or not, etc. like that, you can also put a default value, or we can also mention say default is empty for now, but we don't want it empty, right? First name should always be there. So in this case I'm not adding default. Now comes the tricky part. We can also add some custom validations, right? And now let's say you want to add, I'm going to say I want to validate the data that is coming in. Okay, so you have an option called validator, and which is a function basically which will be executed. So you can say once the value comes, you can do some operations on it. Okay, you can do regex, and you can check a lot of things, whether whatever data you want, whether it should not have numbers, spaces, special characters, etc. So what I'm going to do is write a simple regex, and what we'll call it is something like this. I'm going to keep it simple and just have a basic thing in it. Okay, so instead of like A to Z, I'm also going to say all should be there, strict dollar. Okay, this should be fine. This is a simple check which checks that the field should have only alphabetic characters and not numeric. Now return this value once you have tested it. So you will write name checks.test value. Okay, now this will give you a true or a false. Okay, remember that validator will return you either true or false. Now if it is false, you have a provision to show a message. Okay, so you can say first name must contain only alphabetic alphabetic characters. Okay, that's a simple message that you can throw. That's it. So take a look at this field now. I'm saying I want to create a new schema for contacts model, and I'm creating a new Mongoose schema. In this I have a field, and that field is of type string. It is required, minimum length is 3, maximum length is 20, and trim the value. That means whatever data we are getting, trim the spaces in front and at the end. Also we are running a method to check that it has only alphabetic characters. That's a simple, see, now half of the validation is already done here through Mongoose. So that's one of the major advantages of using Mongoose when you're working with MongoDB. I'm going to create a few more fields quickly. I'm going to do string and required is true. Okay, and I'm going to add one more field, um, say email address, and we are going to say type string, right? And we can say required is true, and we can say unique. That's one of the other available option where you can say whether this field should be unique or not. Okay, and we can also we can also put something like this and make a message and say this is required, right? So we can say first name is required. Similarly, I'm going to add for last name. So this is a custom message that we can show. Last name is required. Same thing. So you can add these options available that are available. All right. So what have we done? We have added the required field and made it true, and we have passed some message which says first name is required or not. We added a custom validator function. We learned how what are the different options like minimum length, maximum length, unique, required type. I'm going to also throw in age just to show you that you can also use different type as number, right? And required is false, that means it's optional, right? So this is another thing that you can use. We can also use boolean value, right? And you can also use enum, that also is available. So there are different data types that we can specify, and that's what is the beauty of Mongoose library. All right, so it says some error. Let's see where is the error. It is giving error here because of the semicolon. Okay. All right. So this is our Mongoose schema. Now take a look again. So we have a schema which has 4 fields, right? First name, last name, email, and age. We can add different options like required true, required is false, right? We can also pass custom messages. We can also add custom methods in terms of validation. Let's say you're writing a phone number. You can also have certain phone number in certain format. You have email address. You want to verify that email address should be of certain, matching format. There are a lot of things that you can do in real time, but this should be a good start for you to understand that there are what are the different options available as part of Mongoose schema. So our schema is done. It's a fairly straightforward schema. In real time, you will have much more complex schemas which can be of different data types that you are using, etc. But I'll try and build a separate tutorial where I'll cover Mongoose schema itself in detail with complex structure. But as part of learning, I think this is what should be your starting point. Alright, so our contact model is ready. Now we will close this. We don't need this now. And in the alright, so now what we'll do is quickly create a route file. So I'm going to go and create a new folder by the name routes, and I'm going to add a new file and say contact.js. This is where all the routes, that is nothing but HTTP methods that we will implement, right? So contacts routes. Okay. Now we will import this into our index.js, the main one. And usually the way I do is import all the main libraries at the top, initialize the app, and then do the required imports here of the routes. So you're going to say contact equal to, then you are going to say require right? And then you will just import them, basically the routes that we just created. So you can say require dot slash routes slash contact. Okay, and we are also going to say app dot use, and I'm going to say slash API should be appended to the route contact. That's it. Okay, so now all the routes that will be there will be by the name slash API slash contact. That's how it will start. Okay, perfect. So we achieved all the three things that we wanted. One, we created the database connection from Mongoose to MongoDB. We also created our model, which is nothing but the Mongoose schema for our collection, and we have set up a dummy route. It doesn't do anything because that's where we will be adding the CRUD functionality. Okay, for the CRUD routes, right? Like create, read, update, delete, all those things will be added in this file. All right, so that's all. That's what we'll do in today's episode. In the next episode, I'll start with the CRUD functionality and implement the create functionality. I hope you're learning. I hope you're having fun. I hope you're enjoying this series. If you do, please do hit that like button. Please do subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much. Keep on learning. Thank you. Welcome back to Arc Tutorials. This is expressjs and Mongoose CRUD tutorial series. This is the part 3 of the series, and in today's episode we are going to learn about the create functionality. In the first episode, we went over the overview of the libraries and the frameworks we will be using. We also did the initial project setup required. In episode number 2, we learned about how to create schema using Mongoose library. Today, we will actually go ahead and start implementing the CRUD functionality starting with create functionality. This episode is special because I will focus on breaking the code in terms of different data, and the whole aspect that I'll try to cover is the error handling. Inserting a record is a very simple job, but how not to allow inserting of wrong data with a lot of negative use cases is what makes create functionality very important. That being said, let's jump right into code. So what are we trying to achieve today? Today we will achieve creating a new resource, creating a post, which is a RESTful API endpoint for inserting documents. Let's get started with code. So far we have our index.js file. We have installed Express, Mongoose, and body parser. In episode number 2, we have done the connection from Mongoose to MongoDB. And in episode number 2, we also created a schema called contact schema. We are building a contact management system. So let's get started with today's work. Before we do that, I forgot to export this in the last episode, so I will do that right now. We'll say mongoose.model contact schema. So we have to export the schema that we created. Let's close this, we don't need it. Let's go to the routes. And today we will start writing the code for inserting, that is create functionality. So first we will have to get in express require express, then we will bring in router instance express.router, and we will also need our contact schema. So I'm just going to call it contact from and require from models. That's what we created in the last episode. So model slash contact. That's all you need in this. Then we'll actually go ahead and create a post method, because create is always a post, and I'm saying my endpoint is contact, and we will write async. Whenever we write async, the first thing I tell everybody is to write try catch error. If it's an error, let's do a console log for debug purpose. And also return status 500, that is internal server, and we can give a message and say message is unable to save new contact. Alright, so that's for the exception handling. Now let's do the try. So what are we going to do in the try? So I'm going to say new contact is equal to new, it's of type contact, and I'm going to pass the data as request body. Once I have it, I'm going to say await new contact dot save. Now this save, I'm going to again bind it with a try and then and catch. So I'm going to say once it is successful, then what you should do is, and here I'm going to get this and just do a console log saved contact, and I'm going to give result status as 201, that means resource created, and I'll also give a message contact saved. That's for the then part. That means once it is successful, what needs to be happening. Now let's do the error handling part. What if it was not able to save? So then we are again going to log the console error for debug purpose and give the status again 500 and JSON, and I'm going to say able to create new contact. Okay, perfect. So far what we have done, we are trying to create and save new contact of type contact using model. All the validation, everything will happen based on this particular contact. If you see the model, we have placed our things like required is true, minimum length, maximum length, validation, etc. So it will validate and then try to save it. If the save was successful, it will go to then part, else it will go to catch part. Now let's run this. For that running, we are going to say node index.js, and it will is giving error because we did not export this. So let's export it. Module.exports router, and then we are going to clear it. Again run it. So now it says server started successfully connected to MongoDB. Let's see our instance, and we have a contacts thing. So I'm going to drop this collection. Alright, so I have dropped that, so now I don't have any. This is good. Now I'm going to go to my postman, and I am going to select the option post, and our API is /API/contact, because in the index.js we said app.use/API. So our routes will be /API/contact. That will be our route. So now we have our API. So let's put in the body, and here I'm going to say first name is arc, last name is tutorials, email address at gmail.com. If you have any doubts, write to me at that email address and I'll be happy to help you. So I have my raw data, I have my endpoint, I have selected the HTTP post. Let's hit send, and it says contact saved successfully. I'll open my MongoDB, refresh, and you see a collection and you see the data, right? So this is how you can create any data in using Mongoose and expressjs. There can be other scenarios where you can do much more better error handling. Like for example, here we can write custom logic. Okay, like if you want to check for certain thing, I'm going to show you a use case where it is going to fail. I'm sending and it says contact successfully saved, right? Whereas it should not, because ideally if you look at my data, so it is having two records of the same RAM, right? So for that, the reason that happens is because Mongoose will not detect that. So you need to drop it, and then you need to drop the database because the index was already created while testing. So that's why it didn't work. So now let's go ahead and try inserting. It says contact successfully saved. Let's reload and we'll see one value is there. Hit enter again. Now it says unable to create new contact, and here you can see that it would have failed the validation. It failed the validation because duplicate error, right? So how do you handle such use cases, right? So we can write custom logic in the if else part and say that what if something was wrong. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to write if error code. You can check that message right here. It says error code is 11,000 and key pattern is email address. So I'm going to use that, and I'm going to say error dot code is equal to 11,000, and then you can write the key pattern, right? Error dot key pattern, right? And you can also mention what type of key pattern it is. So you can say key pattern dot email address. That means if it was because of email address, you can give custom message, else you can give a generic message. You can say email address already in use. Okay, so this is how you can do custom handling. I'm going to run the program again. Just type node index.js and you can run the code. So now I started the server again and I'm trying to insert. So now see, the message has become more clear as to why it is failing. It says email address already in use, right? Because in our model we have added that it should be unique. If you see here, unique value we have added, right? So similarly, we can add for other fields and check and do custom logic for showing error. So remember, don't just work on the happy path, which is when it gets saved. That's only 4 lines. But the negative use cases of preventing bad data, bad elements into the system will take much more logic. Okay. So when you're working on CRUD functionality or especially create functionality, always keep in mind to handle the negative use cases, because that's what will cause trouble when you're building real-time applications. I hope this is clear. I hope now you will be able to insert and using create functionality with expressjs and mongoose. Let me know if you have any doubts. I'll be happy to help you. In the next episode, we'll implement reading functionality, which is reading existing data from MongoDB and displaying it. We'll do different variations like find all, find by ID, etc. So stay tuned. Join me in the next episode. We'll continue building the reading functionality in expressjs and Mongoose. Thank you so much for joining. See you in the next episode. Welcome back to Arc Tutorials. This is expressjs and Mongoose CRUD tutorial series. In the last episode, we have implemented the create functionality, and today we are going to implement the read functionality. We'll implement different variations of it. I'll show you how to use the read method to fetch all the data using find method. Then I'm also going to implement find by ID. That means when you are looking for a specific ID. We'll implement both the use cases in today's episode. Let's get started. If you have missed out on the first 3 parts, kindly go through them. This code that I'm doing, live coding, is part of the continuous kind of a code related code. So it will only make sense if you are following the series. But anyway, if you are new here, that's also fine. If you just want to implement read functionality, that's also fine. Alright, so today we are going to learn about CRUD functionality, that is read. The R in CRUD stands for read. We'll be implementing the HTTP GET method, okay? Because whenever we try to retrieve data, it's always a GET method, okay? Alright, so that being said, let's jump into code. So this is what we had done in the last episode. We implemented the router post, and this was used for creating new documents. Let's go ahead and start writing for read functionality. So we'll use the get method. So always get means whenever you're requesting data. So first I'm going to implement find, which means get all the data. So I'm going to write async request, and then so this is my layout. There is a callback, async callback, and whenever we try and write any async, any code in JavaScript anywhere, we'll first always write try catch. That's a good practice to just make sure that nothing fancy pancy happens. So you do a console log, then you do result dot status 500 dot json, and you also give back a message and maybe say unable to get contacts. Alright, so that's the catch scenario. Now in the try, we have a schema that we created and we are working with. That's the contact model. So I'm going to say contact dot, there's a method called find. Now what find does is it would find all the details, all the documents that are available in that collection. And I'm going to do a then, and for this also I'm going to write a error. Okay, and the way I will implement is first for catch I'm going to console log it, and then I'm going to give a result and say status 500. Again same message, unable to get contacts. Okay, that is the scenario where it fails. I have I'm using the method find, and I'm saying contact.find, find all the documents in this collection, and then what do? You can just do a console log for debug purpose, and then we are going to say results.status 200.json, and I'm going to return that, right? So I'm going to say contacts. Whatever data I got, I'm returning it. Okay, I'm going to also implement search functionality in the next episode, where we will see how to get specific data, not all. But right now what I'm showing you is how do you get all the data. That's the use case I'm writing right now. So that's all we need. It should be straightforward. I'm going to close, and I'm going to run the program by saying node index.js, and I'll go to my postman. I'll select the option as get API/contact. It is still the same because it's /contact, and in the index we are saying use /API, right? So it would be /API/contact. Now let's hit send. Okay, so we are getting the data. Okay, some of you might be wondering, this was from the post, so it doesn't matter, I'm not sending in the post. So when I do hit, I'm getting a document. We have only one record currently in my collection, so if I do find, I get only one. If you have many, you would see many records. So let's do that also, and I'm going to add some data just to show you. Going to show you unique and post. Okay, now I'm going to insert data. So it says contact successfully saved. Now let's use the get method to retrieve, and now it is showing 2 records. Okay, so perfect. So our get is working as expected. Now let's go ahead and write code for getting a specific document. Okay, so this was read all contacts. Okay, this would return us all the contacts, but what I want is only a particular contact. So functionality read single contact, and for that again we are going to use the get method. So I'm going to write router dot get, and it would still be contact but with :id. That means now we are passing a parameter id, and that would be our, that is what will be the id that we will search with. Right, so in the URL now you're going to pass something like this: API slash contact slash ID, some value, whatever value you're trying to retrieve. Okay, that's how the URL will look like. Now, the first thing we'll do is to capture this param. Okay, this is a param by the name ID. So we need to capture it. So I'm going to say ID equal to request.params.id. That means in the params here, find ID and get its value. Once you have that, right, again, like I say, first, whenever we build async methods, the first thing we should do is write try catch and then only proceed with logic. It saves a lot of time, because and you never know what scenarios might fail, so it's always a good idea to make sure that you have the correct error messaging in place. So here, unable to get the contact. Okay, so that's for the error message, that if it fails. So I'm try first get the ID from the request parameters, and then using the schema I'm going to say find by ID. Okay, so this will take a parameter which is an ID, and the ID we will pass is the one that we got from the params. And again we'll write then the contact that we got, and here we'll write the catch and we'll write error. Okay, and what are we going to do? We're just simply going to log it and also maybe return the response, and we are going to say response.status 500.json message unable to get the contact. Okay, so that's for when it fails. Now if it is successful, what do? Usually in prod copies, right, you don't write console logs, but I tend to write it for debug purpose. So make sure that if you are comfortable and tested the code and you're sure that it's working as expected, then you can easily delete the console logs. So now I'm just doing response.status 200.json and return the same contact that I received as part of this. Okay, so once it will execute this method, it will find a contact. If yes, we'll send it. If no, we'll give the error. So let's restart the server by writing node index.js, and now first I'm going to run the get command to get all the contacts. So it's giving me all the details. I'm going to copy an ID and go here and paste in front of the contact and hit send, and now it is only bringing me one contact, right, the contact where it matched the ID. Now I'm going to pass a wrong ID, so it says unable to get the contact, right? So instead unable to find the contact. Okay, so that's a better messaging, so we can always, and here we can say run it and it says unable to find the contact. But if you give the correct data, and it would find you that particular contact easily. Okay, so that's how today we are learning new methods also, that is find and find by ID. In the first, I use the find method to find all the contacts, all the documents in a collection. Here I am using find by ID method, which takes a single ID and matches in the collection. If it matches, it will return. If not, it will give you error. Simple, straightforward. I hope now you will be able to implement the read functionality. Pause the video, get comfortable, start coding wherever you want, and then let me know if you have any doubts. Okay. In the next episode, I'm going to extend the read functionality and write a search functionality. Okay, like I'll write the search and probably we will do some operations on it and try and find the documents using search functionality. Okay, so we'll write a custom code to search those documents. That's all in this episode. Continue your learning with me in the next episode. We'll continue building the search functionality. Thank you so much for joining. See you in the next episode. Welcome back to Arc Tutorials. This is expressjs and Mongoose CRUD tutorial series. In the last episode, we have implemented the get method, which is for reading data. I implemented two methods. One is find by ID. One will retrieve all the documents in the collection. The other would retrieve certain fixed, that is by ID. Today, I want to implement the search functionality. It is again a read, which is get method, but I want to show you because this is an interesting use case often required when you're doing CRUD operations. Without wasting time, let's get started. Alright, so if you haven't checked out the first four parts, I'll request you to kindly do so as this code is being built in continuation. It would make more sense so that you learn entirety and entire CRUD operations with me. This is search functionality tutorial. Today we are implementing get method again, but we'll use find method and I'll show you different variations using regex, etc. Interesting? Let's get started. Alright, so if you remember in the last episode we implemented the get method, two get methods, one for find, one with find by ID. Okay, today we are going to use find method, but we are going to implement search functionality. Okay, search functionality, search contacts. Okay, that's what we are going to implement. And for that, again, we will write router dot get, and here I'm going to say slash search. Okay, so that's my endpoint, but slash API slash I'm going to say contact slash search. Okay, so I'm going to write async and close this. And whenever we write async, you know what we should do. Always implement try catch. That's the first thing you should do of handling the error straight away. And I'm going to say 500, and then I'm going to give a JSON message, and I'm going to say no matching records found. Okay, that would be my error message. Now in the try, right? So remember, when we are searching, we will be getting some kind of a input from user, okay, which is nothing but a query string. Okay, here it was param. If you notice here, ID was in the param, but now we are going to see a variation with query. Okay, so we are going to say search term equal to, and we have something called dot query. That's an inbuilt thing with request, and we are going to say search term, and we'll save it. That means now you have got the search thing. Now you need to do a build a method in order to find it, right? So I'm going to say matching contacts equal to await contact dot find. Okay, and I'm going to pass some params to it. And what are the params going to be? So I'm going to build a OR operator. Okay, so we can do one thing. Otherwise, first we can also implement a regular expression to perform a case insensitive, right? Because sometimes people may enter uppercase, lowercase, etc., right? So I'm going to say search regex, and we are going to say here new reg regular expression, and I'm going to say that search term should be case insensitive. So I'm putting I means convert it to lowercase. So now this value that we got search regex, no matter what uppercase was entered, it would always be converted to lowercase. Okay, so now here we will write our query. We are going to say or, that means match anything, and in this we are going to implement and say what are the fields that it should search. Okay, so I'm going to say first name, it should search with regex. Same thing you implement with last name, email. That means search in all the fields wherever it is matching. Okay, of course age we don't want to search because it doesn't make sense, it's a numeric. So take a look at it. Here I'm extending the find method, and inside this I've added or condition, and I'm saying match in in any of these fields, in first name, last name, or email address, and return that data. So once you do that, once you do the find here dot, then you get the contacts which are returned as part of the search, else catch the error sol.log error response.status 500, or you can give 400, doesn't matter, and you're going to give a message and say unable to find contacts, close it here. In the then you would just, again, like I keep saying, I write console logs so that I can debug if something goes wrong, and here you'll give return back status 200 dot json, and you are going to give contacts and return the contacts if it's matching. So take a look at it again. First we are trying that anything, try this particular block. If no, something goes wrong, return 500 status and say no matching records found. Else try this, get the search term from query, build a regular expression with case insensitive, then matching, right, contacts. Okay, and you can just, you don't want to do that, that's fine, you can just do something like this, that's also fine, and do a contacts and console.log and return the contacts, right. So it will take the or condition, match it with all the fields like first name, last name, email for the query term. Okay, that's all we need. Let's test it. To test, we need to again bring up and just do, and the command we will run to run our server node index.js. So our server has started, it's connected to DB. Let's go here. I'm going to first do a post and going to build few matching records so that we can see them in action. So here I'm going to say Apple and last name corporation, email address apple at email.com, age say 100 years. Okay, so now I'm doing a post, that means I'm inserting the data. It says contact saved successfully. I'm going to add some more data, and this is purely so that I can run my search. Okay, so it says contact saved successfully. Let's see the data that we got. I'm using get method that we implemented in last episode. Now we are getting all the data. We have Apple and we have Intel. So now I'm going to run my search. Okay, and here we will put question mark and say search term equal to corporation. So I'm now searching with corporation because I have two records which should match that data, and send. So it says unable to find the contact. Okay, so let's see the why it has failed. It says object failed to get value for search term cast, object failed for search. Okay, so here let's see what is the exact error. It says argument must passed in must be a string or 26 byte, right. So let's see why it is not taking. We'll see. Oh sorry, I think I passed the wrong data. But I have contact slash search 300, search term is the term that is there in the query and the one that we want to send. So I'm going to delete this, unable to find contact, and here we have the query search term. We are taking that and comparing with regex. Okay, this is good so far. Query dot, and why is that? Let's check query search term. Let's for debug it by putting a console.log and search term clear, run it again. So like I say, if you put console logs, it will help us in debug mode. So here let's see what is the value that we are getting. So I am not seeing any value because it is saying cast to object ID failed for value search type string at path for model contact. Okay, so first name, last name and email address. This is good. Argument passed in must be string value is search. Okay, I think our API is contact slash search. That's correct. Slash, I'm going to change it to only search and check it because it will take the two values. So it says matching contacts is not defined. See, matching contacts is not defined, so that's the problem. So it should be contacts. Okay, that should explain why it is failing. Okay, so now you see it's getting the matching terms for us, which is corporation. We search for corporation and it is giving us the data, right? So that's simple, straightforward. All we have done today is expanded the find method by adding this condition, which is or, right? And here what we are doing, we are taking the search term and we are then converting it to lowercase, and then we are passing it into a regex so that we can compare it on first name, last name, email. Wherever it matches, it will get you those records. If it finds the records, we'll return it. If not, we'll catch the error and we will give back the 500 status. So right now our search functionality is working fine. If you pass some value, which is, let's say I pass Apple, there is one record by the name Apple, so it will give me Apple Corporation. If I search Intel, it will give me Intel Corporation. If I search ABC, which is not there, it will give me empty records. Okay, so again you can put condition here and check if you got, if the length, if contacts dot length is right, if contacts dot length, then give back the contacts, else give response dot status 200 dot JSON message, right, and give contacts to be empty. Or you can even give a message if you feel that is appropriate, right? Either way, this also will give you empty. So here we can give empty contacts and give a message, say no matching records found, right? So there can be different variations of how you want to use it. So if you pass something, now it says empty contacts along with a message no matching records found, right? So this is how you implement search functionality across different fields using the find method by passing different options. I hope it's clear. I hope now you will be able to implement search functionality. In the next episode, we'll continue building the CRUD series and we will learn how to update documents, existing documents in a collection. Alright, that's the update functionality. Join me so that we continue learning and continue this series. Thank you so much for joining. See you in the next episode. Welcome back to Arc Tutorials. This is expressjs and Mongoose CRUD tutorial series. In the last episode, I implemented the search functionality. Before that, we have also seen create functionality and reading data. In this episode, we will learn how to update existing documents in a collection. That is the update functionality. This is part 6 of the series. If you have missed out on the previous episodes, I'll request you to kindly go through them so that you have continuity in your learning and you master the entire CRUD series with me. Today, we are going to implement the CRUD functionality. So to implement the update method, update functionality, we will have to use the HTTP put method. So just to recap, For creating, we will use post. For reading data, we use get. For updating data, we use put. And for deleting, of course, we will use the delete method. That being said, let's get started with our coding. So this is what we had implemented in the last episode, the search functionality, where we saw different variations of how to use it. Today I'm going to write the update functionality. So I'm going to say router dot put method, and my endpoint will be /contact/id. Again, I'm passing a param because I'll need an ID of the document that I need to update. As always, once we put async, the first thing we will do is put a try catch. This is extremely important of handling the errors gracefully. Response.status 500.json message unable to update the contact. Alright, so what happened? Okay. And we are opening here and closing here. Just open it here and that should be good. Okay, what's happening? I just have to close it and then right, and in the try I'm going to write the method. First we will get the ID of the document that we are trying to update. Okay, once you have it, you will also need the body, that is the data, right? And once we have that, so I'm going to say updated contact equal to request dot body. Okay, and once you get this, then what we'll do, we will write await contact dot the method is find by ID and update. Okay, that's the method we are going to use. Find, or you can also use find one and update. Okay, that means find exactly one document and update it, and this will take a param. If you see here, filter criteria, that is the ID, so you can pass like underscore ID is this. That means I'm saying using the contact schema find one by ID, that means find this ID, find a matching ID, and then what do you do with it? Once you find it, you'll pass the data that needs to be updated. Okay, and then you're going to say if it's a new one, you will create true. If you don't find one, create a new one and save it to true. Okay, so I'm going to write dot then updated contact and dot catch error and console.log error. Watch out for the spelling mistakes. That's one of the most common mistakes. And I'm going to say JSON and message, same message, unable to update the contact. Alright, and if it is successful, then we are going to throw in a console log to just for debug purpose updated contact and give the response status as 200 because we were able to update it successfully, and give a message and say contact successfully updated. Okay, so that's all it will require for us to work on the update functionality. First, put a try catch around it. If something fails, just send a message unable to update the record. Find the ID and then use find one and update method. It will find one document, and the second param is the actual data that we need to update with, and we are telling if it doesn't find anything, create a new one. If it finds, then send back the response, and you can also send the updated contact right? Here we are sending the updated contact as well. If there is some error, we will give 500 unable to update the contact. That's it. To run the program, you would run the command node the file name.js, and that's our code that will be executed now. So first I'm going to check what data we have. So I'm going to say API slash contact and get method, so it will return me all the documents that are there in this particular collection. I'm going to take this data and slash id, and we will put the body first name. Now let's update it, Surya, and then last name. Okay, so this is the document that I'm updating. It already has the data, so I'm going to take the first record and change its data. Email address, some email at test.com. Okay, so now see, I'm updating the first record. I'm taking this ID and passing it in the URL, so these values should get updated. I hit, and the method that will be there will be put, because now we are updating. Hit send, and now you see the updated contact value. The value is same in the ID. It says contact successfully updated, and it has updated the first name, last name, email, and age. Right? Pretty straightforward use case. There is nothing complicated about it. You get the ID, you take that particular thing using the schema. We'll say find one and update, and pass that value, and write try catch and then. Right? Simple, straightforward approach to update any documents in a collection. Okay, you can add other things like validations. Let's say if id is empty, or if it's null, if id then only do these, all of that you can put. Okay, if not, give an error, etc., etc. So it's not just this, but it can extend for further more and write that logic, but this is the essence of it. Okay, and yeah, that's pretty much that you will need to update any document. All right. In the next episode, we'll work on the delete functionality, very similar to how we achieved update. Same way we will continue building on the delete functionality. I hope you're learning. I hope you're having fun learning through this series. Join me in the next episode. We will learn about deleting documents in a collection. Thank you. Welcome back to Arc Tutorials. This is expressjs and Mongoose CRUD tutorial series. In the last episode, we implemented the update functionality. Today, we are going to learn the final functionality, which is D, which is the delete functionality. If you have missed out on the first 6 parts, I'll request you to kindly go through them, since all of the code that we are writing is related and is in continuation. In order to learn and master end to end, please do check out all the 6 previous episodes. Today we are going to implement the delete functionality, and to implement delete functionality we will be writing the HTTP delete method. Just like how we used update, we used put method, today we are going to write router.delete method. Okay, but just a word of caution, in real time nobody does a delete unless explicitly you want to delete the account, right? So there are two types of deletes. So one is called soft delete, and the other is the hard delete. Okay, so soft delete means you just set a flag, right? You just set a flag as yes or no, like active, right? So you'll set it to yes or no. But hard delete is actually deletion of the record or the document, right? That's what it means. So I'm going to show you, soft delete is nothing but an put, right? It's an update. So you basically update the field to active or deleted or something like that. But hard delete is when you actually delete it. So I'm going to do the second option. If you want to implement the soft delete, you can just use this code which we wrote in the previous episode to update a given document. Okay, we used find one and update. Let's go ahead implement today, and we are going to write the delete method. So I'm going to say it still be id slash colon id. Now a lot of times new beginners or freshers will make this mistake. They tend to give different URLs for each different endpoint thinking it's cool, whereas restful principle, API principle, says whatever is the model, like in our case it's a contact, so everything is based on contact. When you say slash get contact, when you say slash dot post contact, when you say dot put contact, right? So everything point, the URL will be same, but based on the HTTP method it will know which one to route to. Okay, so here I'm saying route dot delete, and then I'm saying contact slash id. That means I will pass in the parameter, that is the document id, and we will delete it. So first let's write the try catch error console.log error, then response.status 500.json message unable to delete the contact. Okay, that's for the catch exception. Inside the try, first we are going to collect that data. So I'm going to say id is equal to request.params.id. Okay, now here you can do a lot of different variations of id, like you can do say you want to check if it's null, empty, and all of that you will do. And then we are going to say contact dot uh, that is the method. Now I'm going to say find by id and delete. Oh, this is find by id and delete. Okay, find by id and delete, that is the one that we are going to use, and this will take an id. Okay, this will take an id that will pass. Now here it says id as the option, so I'm going to pass the id as the option, and I'm going to say dot then deleted contact and write dot catch error console.log response.status 500. Once you type so much at your work, you get so used to it that you will be quick in typing the way I am, so don't worry about it. It takes years of experience and coding to get here, um, if you are wondering in case. So console.log delete contact, and then I'm going to send back the response and says does 200 JSON, and here I'm going to send the message contact successfully deleted, and I'm going to say the deleted contact details are all right. So that's all we need. We have deleted the id. We'll get an id from the URL param, and we'll collect it. Then we run the method find by id and delete, pass the id, then delete the particular thing, give a message, return the deleted contact. If something goes wrong, give the error. Right, that's all you need for that. So let's go ahead and run the program by running node file name, which is index.js. I go here, and first I'm going to run a get command and get all the details slash contact, so it returns me all the details. Right, now let's say I want to delete the Intel Corporation. I'm going to say contact slash id, and the method is http delete. Okay, now delete that and hit send, and it says contact deleted successfully, and this was the deleted data that is there. Okay, now if we want to verify, I'm going to delete this, go to my get and hit send. It will get me all the records, but Intel is not there because that's deleted in the MongoDB. So the other way to verify is go to MongoDB and check that it's there. Now let's say I want to take Apple Corporation, copy that ID, Again select the delete, contact slash delete, hit send, and it says contact deleted successfully. Go and do find, and in the MongoDB that document is gone from the collection contacts. So that is your delete functionality where we deleted. Now here again, like I said, you can put some validations. If you want to check if ID, then only do all this, else just give that bad data or bad param, etc. If it's empty, it cannot be empty, something like that, right? So that I leave it up to you. That's very basic check. I'm sure you can put it. All right, so that brings us to the end of the functionality of this particular series. In the next episode, I'm going to do a final demo of the entire APIs that we have built, and then I'll show you and share with you how you can get this entire code that I've written in your local from GitHub. Thank you so much for joining in this series. I hope you have learned so much. I have enjoyed a lot building this tutorial for you. I really and sincerely hope that you're learning, you're getting, and you're getting worth your time. Thank you so much for joining in this episode. Join me in the last final episode of this particular series where I'll give you the demo and the source code. Thank you so much for joining. Good luck and see you in the next episode. Welcome back to Arc Tutorials. This is the last and the final episode of expressjs and Mongoose CRUD tutorial series. In today's episode, I'm going to give you a final demo of all the functionality that we have built so far. Also provide you a way to access the source code. Let's get started. This is part 8 of the series. If you want to really learn and master the CRUD series, go through all the previous episodes that we have done. Learn about the Mongoose schema, create CRUD functionality end to end. Let's go ahead today with the final demo, and then I'll give you how you can access the source code. Let's get started. Alright, so today I'm going to give you, so first let me show you, this is the source code that we built over last 7 episodes. We created a route, we created a model called contact, we are building a contact management system, and we have created a route for it, and we have implemented a lot of functionality in it. So how do you get started? First let me run it and give you a demo. So we started our server, it's connected to MongoDB. Make sure that you have your MongoDB installed on your system, and that's when you will be able to work. I have this collection contacts and I'm going to drop it for you so that you can see it end to end. So refresh and my collection is gone. Let's go to the postman and I'll select first post method, and we built an API slash contact. That's what we did, and we built few fields: first name, last name, email address. You can write to me at surya.aradhya@gmail.com and I'll be happy to help you. Alright, so that being said, let's send this data, and it says there are no tests found. Alright, but it has come back with the data. So why is it not showing? Oh, it should be in the body. Yep. So there you see, it says contact successfully saved. So we sent the data and it got saved and it came back. Now let's try and retrieve all the data that is there. So I'm going to delete it, change the method to get an API slash contact, and hit send. You get the contacts. We have only one record right now in our collection. If you refresh and see the collection, we have only one document. So I'm going to take this document ID, add it in front, so we can do get specifically only for this document, which is what it is returning. Same way, I'm going to use the update method, and we'll copy this data for quick purpose, and then we are going to change some value and make it 31, make some additions here, 2 and send, and it is now updated, right? Contact updated successfully. Using the same endpoint, if we change the HTTP method to delete and hit send, it would contact deleted successfully. Go to your MongoDB and refresh the collection. You should not see anything because we deleted that. So that's the entire. We did a lot of validations also. I'm not covering that here, but it's there in the tutorial. Make sure that you go through it and make sure that you learn properly. Now coming to the access to the source code, you can go to our tutorials GitHub repo. It's a public repo. You access expressjs mongoose CRUD repo and you have all the source code available here. Along with that, you want other repos, you can go to our tutorials homepage and you would see all the source code that I have made available. There are a lot of code that I have made publicly like expressjs, mysql, angular, nodes, bootstrap, sidebar templates, and lot more. So make sure that you follow me on GitHub. Also, you check out all these repos to get the source code. I have also documented the README, so that way you know how to do the setup also. If you have any doubts, any queries, please reach out to me in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to help you. With that being said, we will conclude this series. I wish you all the very best and good luck. Like I said, I'm always here to help you. Feel free to reach out to me anytime you need any help. Thank you so much again for joining, and thank you so much for supporting our tutorials always. See you in the next series. The learning continues. Thank you.